Hello, everybody. Welcome to Buckeye Weekly. I am Tony Gerdeman here with Tom Orr, fresh off of an Ohio State Big Ten championship game win, 45-24 over the Northwestern Wildcats. Northwestern ends up 0-2 in the Big Ten East, 8-0 in the Big Ten West. Buckeyes are Big Ten champs. Dwayne Haskins, 499 yards. I think, Tom, for me, the biggest problem there at the end, they could have gotten him 500 yards. They knew he had 499 yards because it was mentioned on the screen. And yet, Urban Meyer, stubborn as always, decides to run the clock out. Go just do a little touch pass, get 3 yards for Dwayne Haskins, or for, throw Paris Campbell in there, whatever. All you need is a single yard. To have a quarterback throw for 500 yards in a Big Ten championship game seems like something you'd want to do.
Right. I mean, this is a milestone, and this is a nice round number. This isn't like, we wanted to get him to 425 yards, right. 500 yards, literally half of 1,000, and you're 1 yard away. So, I don't know, maybe last week Ohio State's SIDs got a scoring decision changed on yes. A run versus a pass, turned a 78-yard Paris Campbell run into a pass because I found video. Maybe they can challenge a spot retroactively, and you get an extra yard.
That's right. You might
steal a yard somewhere, get them to 500. I think it's the least they can do
by any means necessary. So Dwayne Haskins ends up a ridiculous 34 for 41, 499 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Does get sacked 4 times, but I guess the Ohio State offensive line was due after the performance last week. You can't expect, I guess, 2 outstanding stalwart performances in a row, and then they'll take it as they got it. I'm sure they're happy with no sacks from Michigan, 4 sacks to Northwestern. It was a game at halftime, 24-7, if I recall. Mm-hmm. Looked like at that point you're playing in your mind the differential that you'll need for the playoffs, and 48-14, you double it up, and that looks pretty good. And then later in the game, it's a 7-point game several times throughout, and you're thinking, well, there go the playoffs. Now you just have to hope they hold on for the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, it's 45-24. And now, what were the playoff predictors saying?
There was a Gus Vogel, who is someone who's written for the Ozone in the past. He tweeted out a screenshot of like a picture of a TV, knowing Gus, probably a TV at the outer inn, showing ESPN's playoff predictor saying that Ohio State had a 71% chance to get in. I'm not sure I really buy that based on what the committee has done the rest of the year and what, Ohio State gave the committee an out tonight, yep. I think. If the committee was thinking, I don't know, we want to put the Buckeyes in, the third quarter of that game was like, okay, now you have a reason to not put the Buckeyes in. If they had kept the pedal down, they were up 24-7 right before the half, they got the ball back. They were on their own 15 or 20 with a timeout. You have an opportunity to maybe push the ball down the field, try and get some more points there. They knelt on it. Came out after halftime. Northwestern scored a touchdown. Ohio State had a drive. That might have been one of the drives that got killed by a penalty. And then Northwestern had another touchdown, and all of a sudden, it's instead of 24-7, it's 24-21. And it was like, whoa. This was not how this was supposed to go. This was supposed to be a nice, comfortable cruise to the finish.
Northwestern did not cooperate.
No, they didn't.
And so you've got this game that it still ended up like it was looking to end up at halftime. I think they took the long way to it. The running game for me still was not what it needed to be. I guess it was good enough to get the win, but they got outrushed by Northwestern. Of course, most of that is the 77-yarder. Mm-hmm. But J.K. Dobbins averages 4 yards a carry, 68 yards on 17 attempts. Mike Weber, 3 yards a carry on 17 attempts and a fumble. Dwayne Haskins, rushed 420 but lost 25 in sacks. I don't think that helps their playoff cause either, because this was supposed to be an offense that was the running game was picking up. And when you're not looking great running the ball against Northwestern, who is decent, but if you're a top 4 team, you should be able to run the ball in decent. You can rely on Dwayne Haskins all you want, but you still need to get some tough yards. And really, I was less than impressed. But it felt like in the first half they could run on Northwestern because they were I think that at one point they had almost 90 yards rushing, but maybe like 26 attempts. So they were pounding it. It seemed so methodical. Where in the past that has worked in the second half. It didn't really seem to take off in the second half like it has in the past.
No, it definitely didn't. And I mean, we've seen games where we've said they kind of gave up on the run a little early. They definitely did not do that tonight. They 46 carries, and again, some of those are sacks, so 4 sacks, but still, that's 42 rushes. That is sticking with the run and sticking with the run and sticking with the run, even though it wasn't the long rush.
No.
Mike Weber's long run was 11. J.K. Dobbins' long run was 11. Honestly, I mean, Dwayne Haskins finished with -5 rushing yards because of the sacks. Dwayne Haskins, that might have been the best I've seen him run. Like, he was elusive running the ball. He had one of the first half touchdowns. There was a rush, and he eluded a rusher, scrambled around, got outside the pocket, and I think that was one of the McLaurin touchdowns, hit McLaurin down the right sideline. And that's something you haven't seen from him. He's been a very kind of pocket passer guy this year. If you can do that, and first, I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions. The first one is, where the heck has that been all year? But if you can do that, that makes this offense a lot more dangerous. Because then, if you have a bust on the offensive line or someone sneaks through, he's not automatically dead meat. If he can avoid that one guy, you don't have to like sprint past him, but just to kind of dodge, just duck a little bit, get around him, and then be able to make a play, keep the play alive. That's huge.
Yeah, he threw at least 2 touchdown passes on the sprint out, on the rollout, where he was running for a long time. And I think the first one you're talking about, he maybe started out one way, then went the other.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of.
Was definitely more elusive than we have seen this year, which is good news, I guess, heading into the postseason, whatever that may be. You look at these receivers for the Buckeyes, who they're going to be saying goodbye to. Johnny Dixon, 7 catches, 129 yards, 1 touchdown. Paris Campbell, 7 for 89. Did you talk to him after the game? Is he okay?
I did not talk to him. I did not talk to Paris Campbell.
But he played after that.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. He was back out in the field after that.
Then Terry McLaurin, 3 for 78 with 2 touchdowns. His 42-yarder, I asked him about it, and he said that was his call. He called that play. He told Dwayne that he's going to do a double move because they were biting on it. And, we talked before the game, like there may not be any deep stuff because they don't allow it, but he had noticed that Northwestern was biting on the being aggressive on those moves, and so he did a stutter, and Dwayne hit him. So these are veteran guys that can do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Tell their quarterback, hey, I'm going to do this. Watch, we'll get it done. You're going to lose these 3. I asked KJ Hill after the game, are you done? Is this your last year? And he said, ask Terry. And so Terry was standing right next to him, and he just laughed. KJ told me like last year in the winter that he was planning on this being his last year, but he said he didn't know. I think it's going to be hard for him to watch them leave and stay behind. And if he does go, those 4 guys, I don't think Ohio State has ever lost 4 guys like that productive, that integral into the fabric of the offense, and 4 1,000-yard receivers in their career. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a lot to replace.
It is, and this is the first time Ohio State's ever had 3 1,000-yard career receivers on a team at a time, let alone 4. Johnny Dixon went over 1,000 yards in his career today, so that gives them 4. To lose all 4 of those guys is, you're going to see a very different Ohio State offense next year, and that's, if Dwayne Haskins goes, then it's probably stylistically a little bit of a different offense as well. But I think you can pencil in a guy at one of those spots right now who's going to be coming back for his second year next year, Chris Olave, 5 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown on Saturday night. That's okay. Every time we talk about freshmen and where you're going to make an impact and where you're not going to make an impact, it's like, okay, there are positions where you can, positions where it's very hard to get on the field and make an impact. Like running back, like J.K. Dobbins, like last year. Yeah, you can get on the field as a running back. You can make plays. As long as you can kind of do your blitz pickups and that kind of stuff, you could be an impact player as a freshman at running back. Wide receiver is traditionally a position where it's much harder to get on the field. Like you think about even someone like Ted Ginn, he made an impact on special teams as a freshman. He really didn't do a whole heck of a lot on offense. So
That was Jim Tressel's fault, though.
well, yes, but that's okay.
That's a sore spot.
That's okay.
We're trying to keep this show relatively short, but if we want to talk for 45 minutes about how Ted Ginn was wasted at Ohio State, we can do that. If you want to go off on that tangent, Tom.
I would really be interested to see Ted Ginn on a Dwayne Haskins quarterbacked offense. That would be
Now we're talking 120. Now we're like an hour and a half now.
But for Chris Olave to come in, 2 touchdowns against Michigan, 79 yards, a touchdown in the Big Ten championship game, that is not normal. And for them to, they had him block the punt last week. He made the play there. That is someone who is on his way to some big things here.
Yeah, I feel like anytime he does something, a catch or anything, the band should play the theme from The Natural. Because whatever you ask him to do, he's like, yeah, it's easy. I can do that. That's no problem. I'm Chris Olave.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is easy for him, or at least he makes it look easy. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him next year. Another guy, and we're talking about the game, but Demario McCall, I talked to him after the game. He's looking forward to what is available to him next year when we're talking about these guys leaving. Paris Campbell, KJ Hill, who probably combined for about 160 catches so far this year.
Something like that, yeah.
And if those catches are gone, they're going to go to somebody. Demario McCall is one of those somebodies. So he's looking forward to that next year. Him, Chris Olave, Austin Mack, Ben Victor. There's plenty of players to work with. Talk to Matthew Baldwin, the freshman quarterback, about his high school teammate Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Yep. Garrett
Wilson, who will come in, freshman or soon to be freshman wide receiver, 5-star kid. Is he as good as he looks on tape? And he's like, no, he's better. So there's going to be some players to step up next year, but the leadership, which is what Urban Meyer talks about with these guys, even aside from the production, there will be a void there, and you'll have to find people and players who will replace those guys. But they've learned and they've watched. Mm-hmm. Like Chris Olave couldn't learn from a better group of guys. Mm-hmm. Demario McCall as well, watching the guys in his position.
A guy who didn't play tonight due to injury, but Austin Mack. Mack is going to be one of the leaders in that room next year too.
So you lose those guys, but one of my favorite things about college football is just the refreshing. Mm-hmm. The refresh rate of college football, where new stars every year, like Chris Olave. I mean, we're just talking about him. We did not plan on talking about him this year. Not until Urban started talking about him and his teammates started talking about him. We still didn't think we'd be talking about him this much. Nobody did. So that's one of the fun things about this team. One of the, I guess, maybe less fun things is it time to talk about the defense.
I wasn't sure if you were going defense or penalties, because there's a couple things that haven't been that fun.
The drive stopping penalties, there weren't as many pass interferences, if any.
There was one that down in the right corner of the field, towards the bottom of the TV screen, where they threw 3 penalty flags. 3 guys threw the flags at the same.
That is correct.
I don't remember who that was, but someone got flagged for pass interference down there.
But every time there's an incomplete pass, you're just waiting.
Oh yeah,
waiting for the penalty. And they're like, oh, wow, no penalty. I guess we'll move on.
There were a couple of times Jeff Okuda was getting handsy with the receiver. It was like, oh, here it comes. And then the flag didn't come out. I'm just looking at the penalty yards right now. 9 penalties, 90 yards. I mean, that's
almost below average.
Sadly, that's pretty good for this team.
Which is ridiculous. And what's Northwestern, maybe 2 at the end?
3 for 15.
3 for 15. And it took a while for them to get there first. Mm-hmm. At this point, you can't fix it. I mean, it is what it is. That's what this team is. Even with veteran players like Isaiah Prince, it's a penalty a game at least, right?
He had a full start? I think false start or a hold or something today. He got flagged for something at one point.
And there's a personal foul at some point in there too.
Maybe that was him. And that was a pretty. I didn't see a great replay, but the replay I saw was like, that was pretty ticky-tacky.
Yeah, it was up there with Malcolm Pridgeon's last week.
Yeah, he looked like he was finishing a block.
Yeah,
and they flagged him for it.
So just a bunch of odd, every week there's some new way to come up with some bad penalties. And then we talked before the game, like, well, don't expect Northwestern to hit any big home runs. And then John Moten, their speedier running back, goes for 77 yards. But, 4 carries, 76 yards with a long of 77. Mm-hmm. So, 75% of his runs went for negative, went for a loss of 1 yard. So can you really get too upset?
And you take that one carry out, and I know, but you take that one carry out, and they're at 78 yards on 30, I don't know.
23 carries.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong line on the box score. But yeah, I mean, less 74 yards on 23 carries. That's like 3 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And if you can hold the opponent to 3 yards a carry, that's fine. Like that's a good day on defense. And it's just like, oh, there was just that one, just the one, and then. But this has been just the one season.
Yeah.
Unless it's been just the
three.
Just the 4. Yeah, just the 4, just the 3. Again, it's all better. I mean, it's not great. It's not fixed, but it's better. This is the Brendan White version of the Ohio State defense with him on the back end. Has given up a couple big hitters like that, but it's been a marked improvement from a month ago.
I'm looking at the 418 yards total offense. I'm guessing is probably close to a season high for them. Probably not too far off for Northwestern, which, that's about what Ohio State has been giving up this year. It's about what they gave up last week to Michigan. I think Chase Young, 3 sacks it wasn't just the 3 sacks because there were plenty of hurries, plenty of forcing the quarterback out of the pocket. One time he forced him right into Draymond Jones for the sack.
He hit Thorson on the pass that got tipped up in the air or got it was a pass and then they overturned.
Didn't he hit Shea Patterson last? Was he the guy who hit Shea Patterson for the interception?
On the interception for Jordan Fuller. Yep.
So stuff like that doesn't even really show up in the box score. I think you'd like to see it every game instead of like 2 out of every 4 games or something like that. But the Northwestern had no answer for him at all, and it's a pretty good glimpse, you would think, into his next game and next season.
Yeah, 3 sacks plus a forced fumble. That's you do that 12 times in a year, that's a pretty good season. That's and Chase Young all year has seemed like someone who is all potential, and you just see it flashing once in a while. You see these glimpses, and it's like, oh man, if he can put it together. Oh man, if he can put it together. And then you just kind of go, I haven't heard from Chase Young in a while. Like it's just
what's he been up to?
Yeah, like I don't think I've heard Chase Young's name this half. I haven't thought about him in a while. And then he'll just do something crazy, and it's like, oh, there he is. Found him. And tonight was a game where you did not have the quarter where you didn't think about him, you didn't hear about him. He was all over. And if he can continue that growth, continue to improve that consistency, that's going to be a big deal for this team moving forward.
Yep, it was good to see Teron Vincent get a sack there at the end. Talked to him a little bit. I think we both talked to him after the game. Just a really upbeat guy who has seen his role increase, but is obviously looking forward to more next year. And when talking about next year, he's just talking about whatever the team needs, I'll do. I just want to make the team happy, make my teammates happy, make my brothers happy, and help them. But just a real upbeat guy, and you can see why Urban likes him, why his coaches like him, and then just watch out for him next year. That's what Chase Young said after the game, and obviously that's probably what Clayton Thorson is saying after the game as well.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, by the way, why we're talking to a bunch of freshmen after the game, normally after an Ohio State game, they just have certain players available who had big plays during the game, so it's like, okay, you get Urban, you get Dwayne Haskins, you get Terry McLaurin, and Paris Campbell and Draymond Jones and Malik Harrison and Jordan Fuller, and that's who you talk to.
Repeat.
And we talked to a lot of the same guys over and over and over during the year. After the Big Ten Championship game, they open up the locker room. You can go in and talk to anyone you want. So this is our first opportunity, basically all fall, to talk to a lot of the freshmen. So, for example, I talked to all the freshman defensive linemen. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Tyreek Smith, Teron Vincent. Who'd you talk to?
Vincent as well. Quarterback Matthew Baldwin. You're just you're racing through trying to get like a few minutes with everybody, and so you lose track of actually everybody who you've talked to, because you get 30 minutes, and the 30 minutes goes really quick.
Yeah, but it's a great opportunity to talk to guys who, as you're sort of slowly starting to turn the page from this season to next season, you start looking ahead a little bit. You start getting, like I asked Tyreek Smith, who on this team that nobody knows yet is looking like they're going to know him next year. And he named a couple people. One of them was Jalen Gill, the H-back. Talked to Jalen Gill a little bit. But one of the other things we talked to those guys about was, so this is either going to be a playoff team or a Rose Bowl team. These are all guys who are 18 years old, who all grew up during the playoff era and the late BCS era. And many of them are not from Ohio. So, like, what does the Rose Bowl mean to you? Like, is the Rose Bowl a big deal? Is that, like, a thing for you? Like, the way that old guys talk about the Rose Bowl and these, like, hazy, sepia-toned
let
memories.
Me guess, they're all like, well, I love parades.
Yes.
So.
Yes. A lot of them, the Ohio guys were, Jalen Gill, obviously. The Rose Bowl is the Rose Bowl. He grew up in Columbus. So, Wyatt Davis grew up in California, an LA kid. Yeah. He's real excited to go back to LA. Tyreek Smith actually grew up in California for about 14 years, then moved to Ohio, so it's a big deal for him too. But even like Isaiah Prince, I asked Isaiah Prince about that because he's a Maryland kid. Was it a big deal? Because this was not Big Ten territory. He's like, oh no, the Rose Bowl is the Rose Bowl. Like it's a big deal. Whether the goal is always the playoffs, but the Rose Bowl was a big deal to everyone. The one who was interesting was Teron Vincent, because I asked him, because his dad is Troy Vincent, who was the former NFL star. I
played at Wisconsin.
I had forgotten Troy Vincent played at Wisconsin. So I was like, so was the Rose Bowl a big deal in your house? And he's like, oh yeah, well my dad was a Wisconsin guy. I was like, oh yeah. So
he was probably like 1993 or so.
That era sounds about right. Yeah, some of those mid '90s Wisconsin Rose Bowl teams. So he said he had never been to a Rose Bowl game, but he had been to the Rose Bowl like for a UCLA game.
Right.
So,
well, it's pretty much the same.
Pretty
Very
much.
Similar.
Structurally the same. Yes. Spiritually,
traffic-wise,
yes.
The directions are the same. There's a little more congestion maybe for the Rose Bowl itself.
But it was interesting just to talk to those guys, and I'll probably end up writing something about that. It was interesting to talk to them and just sort of get their sense, because it's all you hear when people talk about, what's a successful season, what's next for this team, is playoff. Are they going to make the playoff? Is this a playoff team? If it's not a playoff team, is it a successful season? This team just blew the freaking doors off of Michigan, just won the Big Ten, and the worst case scenario is the Rose Bowl. This is what a successful Ohio State season looks like. If you are not happy with this Ohio State season, you need to go find another sport. It's just, go root for Alabama.
Go play intramurals, brother.
If this is not good enough for you, go root for Alabama. This was at times a very frustrating Ohio State season. The way this season has ended up, this is a great Ohio State season now.
Well, Dabo Swinney was saying the same thing about the Clemson fans who were upset that the game against South Carolina was too close at times. And so he went off on people there as well. And I think expectations are one thing, but when people, feel like they deserve more, like my team should be 13-0. Like, I'm entitled to that. You're only entitled to what happens on the field when other people are, you're not really entitled to it. You just get to enjoy it or not enjoy it. And really, it's up to you, whichever you want to do. If you don't want to enjoy 13, 12-1, that's too bad, because, you got a Big Ten championship, got a win over Michigan. I don't know if you guys saw that last week. It was a pretty fun time, pretty exciting. And, not everything is 14-0, 2002, and there was plenty of complaining about that season as well during the season. Maybe people have forgotten. There were not very many pretty wins.
No.
And there was a lot of ugly wins against bad teams that season that it just happened to turn out well. And it was the one game at the end that made everything great.
Yeah.
But it was not a great season until that one win.
No, and if you're a college football fan, it is not realistic to expect your team to go 14-0 every year. Like that's just not a thing. Like these are teams full of 18 to 21-year-old guys who are going to have a good week and then a bad week and then a great week and then a terrible week. And this Ohio State team is talented enough on the bad weeks, on the just okay weeks. They're usually talented enough to get by, but you have some kind of close, gross wins that everyone gripes about, and then you're going to slip up every once in a while. Like Urban Meyer is one of the greatest coaches in college football history. How many unbeaten seasons has he had? He had one at Utah, one at Ohio State. That's it. End of list. He's won 3 national championships, none in seasons when he was undefeated. Like it is hard. Alabama loses pretty consistently one game a year. Like that's just how it is. And
if the SEC was better, they'd lose more.
That's true. Do you want to go through questions, or you want to talk about the Rose Bowl? What do you want to talk about?
No, let's do some questions.
All right, we'll zip through some listener questions right now. I'll just scroll back. I just saw someone tweeting that Chase Young's 3 sacks today was better than Rashawn Gary's entire season, which, I mean, hashtag facts only. Brad Jordan says the Indy 499. That's real good. We might have to use that.
Somebody has to write about Dwayne Haskins setting a school record.
I will write about Dwayne Haskins.
Now delete that so that we can claim credit for that.
Yes, I will write about Dwayne Haskins, the record tracker or something. Yes, the Indy 499. Brad, that is very good. Ryan Smith, offensive play calling was atrocious again. Rose Bowl, here we come. And,
I saw a lot of people upset with that. Yeah. There's, we like we said, they stuck with the run. It wasn't always effective. People were talking about Urban coaching for the Rose Bowl rather than coaching for the playoffs. I don't know that I noticed that. I think if Ohio State is struggling, it's also okay to credit Northwestern. Mm-hmm. Even though at times it looked like Ohio State could do what they wanted to, but then would not. Mm-hmm. But then there was also some penalties. I don't know, did you feel like there's play calling issues? Sometimes the run was a little like, why when you could just throw it? Yeah, there were some times that it got a little run heavy when there was nothing. Yeah. And Kyle says, outside running game is a mess, hoping for a halfback pass to offset the safeties flying downhill. I mean, something like that wouldn't hurt, and that's, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff that they haven't done in the running game that I think we've thought all year, like, hey, they're going to do this at some point, right? And then they haven't done it. Yeah, it wasn't great. It was fine. It was basically 3 and some change per carry, which is not good, but they stuck with it and they were able to work around it, and they didn't get too one-dimensional, and that's kind of the biggest thing. It's still 607 yards of total offense, so yes. I can't get too hung up on the offensive coordinator problems. Yeah.
Scrolled past it. Brad says the Bucks play up or down to their level of competition and let Northwestern hang around a little too long, but we're never really in danger. I mean, it felt there was a point in the second half when it was 24-21, and it was they could blow this. It was this reminded me a lot of last year's game against Wisconsin, where they jumped out in front, and then it was just like, how was this game close this late? And then this year they pulled away. Last year they didn't pull away, but this is not as good a team as that Wisconsin team they played.
Possibly a better quarterback now for the Buckeyes, possibly.
In your opinion?
In my opinion.
Kyle says also, how about the Buckeyes running no huddle after a loss of yardage on the Dixon long pass? Great time to break that tendency.
Was that the 13 men on the field at that point, or no? That was the one. Yeah, it's true. When they don't just huddle back up, or like after an incomplete pass, and everybody regathers, and then they just keep firing. I think they need to do more of that.
Treebuck says Dwayne looked faster and quicker in this game. I mean, he certainly looked. I don't know if he looked faster, but he looked.
There
more
was
elusive.
one moment where on his one scramble where he dodged a guy and then went upfield. It was only just a brief instant, but it was the fastest I've ever seen him. Mm-hmm. But again, it was only like 4 or 5 yards. But man, it was decently fast for that split second, and it looked like he had expended all of his energy, and then it was like, I am done. I'm going to rest here. But for that briefest of moments, he looked like a guy who 4.75.
Yeah, maybe. JF Changer says Wyatt Davis evaluation. Wyatt Davis, of course, starting right guard tonight. Redshirt freshman. playing in place of the injured Demetrius Knox. There were plenty of times that you kind of looked up and went, that wasn't great. But first start on this kind of stage, that's not the easiest way to start your career.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, and he'll be much better in his next game than this game. Mm-hmm. He'll be practicing with the starters the entire time. You'd be able to use this as an example or to learn from it. And I would expect him to be, is twice as good. Mm-hmm. Exponentially better from your first start when you're just thrown in there. And there is still the whole meshing of the unit that has to happen, and that will be able to happen now through bowl practice. So I expect him to be better than he was today, because there were some issues.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But this is going into the bowl game. You have 15 practices going into the bowl game. That is like a whole new fall camp or a whole new all of spring ball is all of spring ball is 15 practices. So you have 15 practices now where you're practicing with the ones. He's going to look very different in Pasadena or wherever they end up at the end of the month than he does right now.
Yeah,
sure.
that was one of the things I was talking to Matthew Baldwin about. This is his first opportunity to actually practice. Because when you're in the season and you're the number 4 guy, basically, you don't get reps. It's just mental reps. And this is going to be his first opportunity to show his teammates what he's capable of doing.
Corey asked, do you think Urban will make a statement regarding his future before the early signing period?
I think if there is a statement to be made, he should do it before the signing period. Mm-hmm. Do I think one will be made? At this point, one way or the other, don't you think he has to say, I'm not going anywhere, or this is what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. After the game on the field, we were talking to Shelley Meyer a little bit about Urban's future, and she said he's feeling really well right now, has been for a few weeks now. Winning makes him feel better, but that right now all they're focusing on is enjoying this win, and that was pretty much all she had to say about what's next. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of not that they need to be forthcoming, but they're not really being forthcoming about something that they could very well be forthcoming about if there is nothing to not be forthcoming about. Mm-hmm. If you follow what I'm saying.
I follow what you're saying.
If he's coming back, they could just say, no. Why? Yeah, of course he's coming back.
Mm-hmm. Now, he said he plans to coach.
Yep.
So, maybe that's an answer.
He coached tonight.
He did coach tonight. He did.
And if they play on January 1st this year, he will have fulfilled his promise of also coaching next year.
There you go. Guess maybe that's why he was coaching, not to make the playoff. Don't want to risk that. How deep does it go? Wheels within wheels.
Yes.
Thomas says, "Thanks for helping me to deal with the third quarter derailment. You guys are appreciated." Well, we do what we can. We can't fix everything on the field, but
third quarter derailment is my band's name.
Ryan Smith says $2,000 to attend my first Rose Bowl and watch us rout Washington from row 20 at the 30. Why not? I'm trying to remember what it spent. My freshman year, 1996, when Ohio State went to the Rose Bowl, I bought one of those package tour things out of the lantern.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm going to go because it's the Rose Bowl. And I remember paying, putting the big down payment down after they beat Indiana. And then they lost to Michigan. It was like, oh no, everything is ruined. But yes, it is worth going. Yeah. If you have, in the words of Ferris Bueller, if you have the means, I highly recommend it. It is worth, the Rose Bowl is worth the trip. And maybe more so than a playoff game or, hey, they're going to Sugar Bowl or they're going to Fiesta Bowl. If you are an Ohio State fan who has the means to go travel to a bowl game, go to the Rose Bowl once in your life. It has been 9 years. I went to the 97 Rose Bowl, 96 season, and thought, I am never going to miss a Rose Bowl if Ohio State goes. And then in the 2009 season, my wife was about 8 3/4 months pregnant, so then I didn't go to the Rose Bowl that year, which was poor planning on my part. But these things happen.
They do happen.
So, so this year, as far as I know, she will not be 8 3/4 months pregnant, so it should be good. We planned out this year much better. Thomas says Rose Bowl is the best parade, so I can deal with it. It is the That's a fun part of the day. You're getting up. If you go to the Rose Bowl parade, you get up real early in the morning. It is like,
man,
I think it was like 4 in the morning to get there, because it's like it starts at like 7 local time, because it's like 10 Eastern. And
I ain't going to no parade, man. I see these people at like Red, White, and Boom putting their lawn chairs out along the city streets at like 6 in the morning, and then sit there all day long until like, fireworks finally start at night. I ain't doing that. I'm not sitting forever to watch a parade. Parades? What? I'm not a parade guy anymore. I was a parade kid, but I'm not a parade man. I outgrew foolish things. I will probably be doing something else during that parade. We'll send the photogs out.
I bet it's sleeping. Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to be sleeping?
Yes,
this
I
is
probably will.
This is a smooth transition to our friends from Buckeye Slipcast. They say, "Go to bed, you two." Well, friends, we have content to produce.
Yes,
we've got to finish recording this podcast, and then we got some articles to write, and
that's also a very good segue for you, because I think we have finished this podcast, and we can say goodnight. Are there still questions?
Sons of Schmidt, our friends from Sons of Schmidt, have we figured out what targeting is yet? Now that the regular season is officially over. No. Targeting is when the official looks like he's punching himself in the head and then points one of the directions. That's what targeting is. And then everyone at home just wants to also punches themselves in the head.
The worst thing about targeting are the people who think they know what targeting is. And when you watch something, you're like, I don't think that's targeting. And they're like, oh yeah, it's clearly targeting. And those people are right half the time, just like you were right half the time, just like I am right 33% of the time on targeting. You can have the rules like tattooed inside your eyeballs, and it will still not translate to what you're seeing on the field that gets flagged or doesn't get flagged. It's all a judgment call by people who have no judgment, and that's basically the history of referees. That's all they are. They're just, and I know we've said this before, they're just terrible people. I mean, if you have a referee in your family, I'm sorry. I'm sure it's hell for you, and they're always telling you like, that's not how you put stuff in the fridge, or, this is not the way you're supposed to organize your socks. All of these rules that, just shut up. Just go be a ref away from other people. Stop ruining sports. Stop being just the worst people. Like, I'm not saying they should be jailed, but there should be like a place where they live, where they can be confined in cages. That's all.
So like a ref zoo.
Yeah, a ref zoo. But we don't need to see them. So like behind like big brick walls.
A secret ref zoo.
A secret ref zoo.
I think you're
describing run by the government.
I think you're describing CIA rendition sites. I think that's what
That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. And if you want a waterboard, I don't care.
Do refs deserve constitutional protections? Not after those calls, they don't. All right, now we're not going to end anything better than that. So now we're done. We're sending refs to secret CIA rendition sites.
Enjoy Guantanamo. See, we should have ended earlier.
Just say Gitmo. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. It's very late, Tom, and we've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So just sit them back and watch old Bandit go. All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out the rest of the stuff on theozone.net. We're going to have all kinds of stuff from this game. And then Sunday, it's all meaningless because it's playoff stuff and bowl stuff. And we'll get there. We'll talk about it then as well. So thank you all for listening and watching, and we will see you later in the week.